Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Need Some Introduction. I'm your host, Victor, and on this podcast, we're usually watching a show week to week, hopefully introducing all of you to something new to watch. In today's episode, we will be discussing the most recent episode, the fifth episode of the HBO Max series Task, called Vagrants, right? Is that the name of the title of this episode, Sona?
It is the title, and I thought it was interesting. Maybe I'm over-examining that it was plural.
Yes. That's the very first thing I wanted to mention to you, or ask you about, I should say.
We are so aligned today.
We are totally on it. As usual on these conversations, I'm joined by my co-host, Sona.
Hi.
Before we get into the episode breakdown, I had a few things I wanted to bring up. First of all, I had mentioned to the audience in the previous episode, the most recent episode, where we were discussing one battle after another, that one thing I was thinking about watching, because it had just become available, was the Ed Gein Monsters series, this year's anthology season of Monsters, the Ryan Murphy series on Netflix, about this serial killer which inspired Psycho and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, etc. And I was intrigued because, I have a very difficult relationship with Murphy, but I was intrigued because I had heard that there was casting in the series for Tobe Hooper, the director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and also for Alfred Hitchcock and Anthony Perkins. So I'm like, oh, this could be interesting. It could be about the stories we tell about these monsters, right? And that could have been almost like a meta narrative about these monsters. So I was like, okay, intrigued by this story. And I did watch the whole thing, Sona. But I just want to tell the audience out there, if you guys watched it because I suggested it, then I apologize. And if you have not watched it, then please do not watch this. This is such a piece of garbage. I am shocked that you have really terrific actors involved in this series. I mean, Vicky Krieps plays Ilsa, the Nazi torturer here. A terrific actress she is. And I mean, they drag in, these recreations of World War II torture as well. In the concentration camps, it's all over the place. And it's so bad that I would have to discuss the ending to talk about just how unbelievably stupid this is. And by the way, the recreations of real life people, which I think are all dead, their representations here in the series have got to be like libelous the way they are presenting these people as if they knew that and even encouraged some of these horrible behaviors from Gein. It's just absolutely nuts. This is the horrible fact about these Ryan Murphy shows, that after I started watching it, I got vested in it enough that I kind of wanted to see it through the end, even though I was hating most of what I was watching, or hoping that maybe there would be some payoff, that maybe there would be some subversion of just this absolutely grotesque, wallowing in the most disgusting aspects of the story, the most sensationalized version of the story possible. What I honestly think that, for better or worse, I think they were mixed results, but I think he tried to engage with some of the more interesting aspects of the Dahmer story and the Menendez brothers. So I think that he tried to engage with some of the more and I don't think they were successful fully, but I think there were episodes in those anthologies that were interesting, or at least engaged with some of this. And I assume now, honestly, this is a very cynical take, but I think I'm correct, that the only reason there was any kind of restraint in the storytelling was because these were people who were still alive and could potentially sue. Because the reins have been taken off, and he's just he can make up any garbage he wants to. And of course, the creative team is not just him, but this is awful. It's the worst of the series, and it is a complete waste of time. And I wasted my time watching this, and I'm telling you, don't waste your time. Okay, with that out of the way, more pleasant
thank
things.
you for that public service announcement.
Yes, it's just a PSA for everybody. Just because, I would have just not mentioned it at all, but I did bring it up in passing that I was probably going to try to watch it. And I just want to tell people, if you were planning on it, don't. And if you did, I'm sorry. Okay, a couple more pleasant things to discuss. So I heard an interview with some of the team behind the task, Brad Englesby and Mark Ruffalo and Tom Pelfrey, and just a couple of takeaways, Sona, I thought you would enjoy. One of them was that Mark Ruffalo was talking about how when he began making the series, he had a prosthetic belly, but that as he was making the series, the belly kind of started to fill out. And that his wife came to visit with the kids at one point, and she said, "Oh, your dad is eating his way through Pennsylvania." And the sandwich he was eating in that scene that we brought up in an earlier episode was a steak and broccoli Rob sandwich, was apparently is a big thing. Yeah, I haven't had it before, but apparently he this is his favorite sandwich. And Mark Ruffalo said that the scene where he's scarfing down that sandwich, they ran the camera without telling him. So that is him just going face first into that sandwich. I was like, wow, he's really committed to this performance. Nope, that was just him scarfing down a sandwich.
That's really funny.
Okay, one more entertaining fact, by the way, Sona. Tom Pelfrey is from New Jersey and graduated from Rutgers in 2004.
Nice. Hometown boy.
Hometown boy, exactly. So that's one more connection to our podcast.
Where in New Jersey is he from, north or south? I'm going to try and Google. Howell Township, New Jersey.
Howell, right. Yeah.
Which is?
It's right next to Asbury Park, actually.
Oh, okay then.
Yeah, near where my sister lives. So that's his hometown. Local boy, went to a local school, making it big time.
Good for him.
Big time. All right, before we get into the breakdown, Sona, what did you think of this episode? I would assume that this is going to be where a lot of people are going to jump onto this show, just given where we end things. I mean, literally ending things on a cliffhanger. I'm not a huge fan of cliffhangers, but I did find this to be a very satisfying episode, despite ending on a massive cliffhanger.
I love this episode. I think it was my favorite so far.
Same.
And there are 2 left?
There are 2 more, yeah.
It's hard to imagine there are 2 more. I feel like the way this episode went, there should just be 1 more. So I'm curious how that's going to work.
I think this is just a pattern. Instead of being like, and then the case is resolved, end of series, I think Brad Inglesby has more of a structure where there is like the fallout from that. And then there's all these other characters. So I think that it doesn't necessarily land in the traditional, big action finale. Because, I would assume that, you are so close to the end of the plot here that this is all going to resolve itself probably within, I can't imagine this being a whole entire episode next week. It's probably going to be the, immediate events and the aftermath in that next episode. And then probably a whole other episode after that but there is a lot of characters in the show. So I think I don't have an issue if that's the structure of kind of letting us see how all these folks are dealing with whatever the outcome is. And we can speculate at the very end what we might anticipate in the next episode. All right. So as the episode begins, we have this baptism symbolism that we see at the beginning and at the end as bookends here of the episode. And it begins where we have this flashback to Robbie and his brother as boys. And they are, we've heard Robbie say that his brother told him you have to like kind of wet yourself before you hit the water or your heart could explode, which of course is like these urban legends that kids tell, but of course a habit that he still has to this very day. And then he, in his flashback jumps into the water, but when he surfaces, he's actually with Cliff. So this is like another surrogate brother that he has. And of course we know that is painful considering what has happened to Cliff here, which he's not aware of yet. It's actually him waking up. He's in front of Ray and Shelley's house. Shelley, you could see him thinking, like, what is going on here? She's telling him he was picked up by the cops. He's like, what do you mean? He was texting me last night. So all of this is very confusing to him, but she's really desperate. She still wants to make sure that Ray stays in jail and also wants to have some means to escape her current situation. So interesting that we have this paralleling of multiple abused women, by the way, in this movie, right? Or this series, True. I should say, between Aaliyah and her backstory. And of course, now Shelley. And also, of course, what happens to Aaron, or just Aaron's relationship with her husband as well. She's desperate here and says, I can help you sell the dope. Of course, she knows about Freddie, which is the only connection she has. And that's probably a bad idea, but these are a bunch of very desperate people at this point.
Yeah, although I mean her whole shtick of like you can trust me. I mean, you're the one that broke into Cliff's house, right?
Right. Well,
And
she doesn't. He
also,
doesn't know these, right? A lot of these things, you like think about it. That I agree with what you're saying, but I think it's kind of good to reorient the audience as well, and because he does not know that Shelley and Ray were arrested inside of Cliff's house because they thought that Ray was still out in the wind, basically coordinating the drop the day before, right? So,
no, I'm just going to the truthfulness of this
oh,
statement.
sure, sure, sure.
Because you're saying also this idea that like she's desperate to get out of this abusive relationship. And maybe so. And yes, fair point. She needs the money to do it. But also, this guy was locked up for a long time and she took no steps.
Yeah. I mean, there's an interesting point here, by the way. How many days, I wrote this down, and I have to play out if this is theory is correct or not. But I started thinking to myself that this is actually a very tight plot. I actually think possibly, and I could be off by a couple of days here, I think we might be seeing one day, one episode.
Could be.
Because the first episode, I guess this would kind of be like a wraparound. We have the heist that goes successfully, and then of course ends with the heist that goes badly. But then it seems like in every single episode we have like the fight between Robbie and Maeve that night that she brings her boyfriend over or that boy over to her house. And it's almost like and then we have, of course, like in the most recent episode, we had that Emily had overheard the conversation on the patio between her dad and Sarah, and that blow up. And basically, those are the ends of the last two episodes. And in one case, it is the night, right? It's the same thing. It's like the night. And then we always open, or practically always open, seems to be in this morning, like after people are we literally see people waking up in multiple episodes of this season. So I'm like, this could be all happening on a very tight schedule. So some of this, like, for example, the fact that if we count it that way, Sam's been in the house, of course, strangely, although Maeve does finally return him this week, but this might be only 2 or 3 days that he's been around.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, actually. Because there was also, we could have pinned this timeline. I wasn't paying as much attention. In the first episode, I think there was a reference to the father-daughter dance.
Right.
And
is
then
on
in
Thursday,
the last
right?
episode,
And it still hasn't happened.
right.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yes. So that's a perfect indicator of that. That in the last episode, he said, "Let's practice for tomorrow's." So theoretically, this night that we're in now, which I guess we don't make it to the night in this episode. So there, I already broke my rule that this could be one day. But I'd say it is approximately one day. But in this particular case, this episode, obviously, we are probably still like only in the middle of the day. And we're still, obviously the episode wrapped up. But I think some of the previous episodes may very well have been a single day per episode. I mean, we think about like Grasso and Lizzie almost hooking up. It always seems to be like it is late at night. And
True.
then, of course, the next episode we begin. Like here, perfect example is in this episode, of course, the hookup happened last week or almost happened last week. And now we see them waking up in the morning, right? So this is, again, just another day here at the task force. As far as the investigation goes, Task has the witness, of course, from the previous episode, and they're going to start drawing a sketch, which, of course, just we see that there are parallel investigations going on throughout the course of this episode, but they are all leading to the same place, all roads leading to the same place. I want to call out early in the episode that we see McGinty getting to her office. She is a emotional eater, as we find out later on, and she's just pounding carbs the entire episode. But she is eating a very stale, like she literally has to pull this bagel apart with her teeth because it's like so.
Was it a bagel? I wasn't clear on what it was.
I thought it was a bagel, and she was like pulling at it, and I'm like, you can do much better than that, especially in this area.
I mean, I can't speak for Pennsylvania bagels.
That's a good point. But I mean, hey, you know what? It's all regional, I would assume. New Jersey bagels are pretty incredible, but I mean, we're right next to New York, so of course you would expect.
Yeah, this whole area has great food. We've talked about it before.
Yeah, she should have been eating a Taylor ham, egg, and cheese or whatever they call it in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So Perry arrives with Jason back to Jason's home. Aaron sees that he has blood on him. Erin, of course, this concerns her. She wants to know what's going on with Robbie. But of course, Perry's onto her and puts a tracker on her car. Then Perry heads out. What was that?
Poor Erin.
Poor Erin, I know, indeed. And then Perry heads out to go see Maeve because of the gun connection he made last week, because of that convenient photo album. And this is a very tense episode, but Maeve is very smart here. What did you think about this whole sequence where she tries to keep him from walking into the house, hiding Sam in the chicken coop?
Okay, so first I want to say, this isn't the point. Maeve's hair looks great here.
Yes, much better than usual, right?
I don't know why the styling is different for this particular scene, but it looks fantastic. I was thinking like, wow, I didn't know a mullet could look so good. But by the end, she's returned to her usual kind of flattened down mullet. So there's that. But yeah, she definitely can think on her feet, this girl. And at 21, that's really amazing, actually, how much she is able to make quick decisions in the heat of the moment. I mean, we saw her misstep a few times with trying to get rid of the kid, but that also, I mean, the kid was a little unpredictable. So
right. They want to be that way. I mean,
so I liked how she did this, and she did everything right in this sequence. She just could not have foreseen that photo was going to be on the fridge.
Yep, exactly.
But, I think this Perry character is really, I mentioned the other week, I think the actor is very charismatic. I think he's doing a great job of portraying this kind of like underlying menacing, right? That he's a very dangerous person. And that definitely comes across in all his scenes.
Oh, it's interesting how they try to flesh him out later on with the way things go, because, I mean, up until this point, he seems pretty menacing, but then you could read it as primarily he's trying to protect Jason. I wish we understood that relationship more, and maybe there will be more about that later, because he seems that maybe he has to present himself in this cold-blooded manner, but maybe he's not as cold-blooded, although I don't know how things are going to ever go well with Erin at this point, to be honest.
Well, I think we know by the end.
Right. Oh, no, I just mean that there was no, I think he feels guilty about how things went with her.
Oh, for sure.
But I mean, what else was going to happen? I mean, at this point,
I agree. I think, his motivations can be multiple, right? It could be protecting Jason, but also somebody stealing his drugs, and he needs to get to the bottom of that too.
He's quite the investigator, I got to say. He's like does more police work here than most anybody else in the show. So maybe he missed his calling. Back with the task force again, they are starting to piece their own investigation, which of course is also leading back to Maeve. So this bucket they find has Maeve's fingerprints on it. First of all, do you believe that this would come back so quickly? I guess it's a missing kid, so I guess you can accelerate this process. But why would they even have Maeve's fingerprints?
I was about to ask the same thing. I mean, I could see her getting arrested for shoplifting or something, right. Maybe.
I mean, if you have those kid print programs, like where they used to fingerprint your kids, because when everybody had like the panic back in I guess it still happens now.
Yeah, we never did that. Yeah, but yeah.
Even my nephews, I remember they had a program where they would fingerprint everybody. But as far as I know, they can't use your kids' fingerprints unless they are missing children, right? But I guess that would make sense, right? If they're running Sam's fingerprints looking to match for a missing kid,
they're all in the same database,
right? It will be the same database. So they'd be like, well, we found his data, or we don't have his fingerprints, but we found this other, because theoretically she would have been fingerprinted as a kid. So maybe this makes sense. So it seemed a little convenient.
We can go with that. Yeah.
Right. And of course, then this is like whenever the dominoes start falling. Maeve, of course, leads to her dad's been missing for over a year. His name was Billy. There's rumors that he was killed by his gang. He's in the same gang that they've been circling around. Tom has the name of Billy that the other guy brought up. We heard about this guy getting beaten to death. His name was Billy. So all of this is circling, of course. So this, of course, significantly intrigues Tom, and he's heading out to Maeve's house as well. But before then, we see that Robbie and Erin have met up. This is a great scene, by the way. Tom Pelphrey's performance here, when she's like saying, Cliff is dead, and he's processing this going like, no, it
Mm-hmm,
can't
mm-hmm.
be. He was texting us last
Right.
night.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, oh, but he was freaking out saying, don't come. I remember that someone else was there. Maybe the cops picked him up, and he's still trying to piece that out. And she's like, no, he's dead. Jason came home. He's covered in blood. And then you see that even though I assume Tom still can't figure out what happened with text messages from Ray and whether he'd been picked up by the cops, etc. But now he's processing this, right? That he's gotten one of the few people he's still connected to, who's close, the closest thing he has to filling that emotional gap that his brother left. He's gotten this guy killed too, right?
2, yes, because I was thinking at this moment, how many people has Robbie gotten killed at this point? Exactly. Quite a few.
Yeah, and Erin gets killed too. Although Erin, I mean, she's the one who I think recruited Robbie. So I think if Robbie had
I don't count her.
Yeah.
But the friend in the original break-in, plus those 2 people who were not his friends, but still, like, this was all a consequence of his actions. And now Cliff.
And he knew who they were. That's the other thing. If you go back all the way back to that first episode, and I was like, man, these like drug addicts are so annoying. And when they were saying like, I know that voice, that voice. And I'm like, at the time I was like, oh, is he making that up? Or it's like, because the guy said something to him, when they were picking up this garbage earlier, I'm like, would this guy remember his voice? But now I'm piecing it all together. I'm like, no, they were like in the same gang together.
Right.
They probably knew Robbie from being, with around Billy and such. So yeah, he's like, I know that voice. So now we understand how closely aligned they were. So yeah, I thought Tom Pelphrey was really great in this scene, and
throughout this episode, I thought.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, definitely, yeah. But he has those sad eyes. He uses them, weaponizes them here, especially. But a few times, the whole time where we get to that incredible long sequence where he's in the car with
amazing
with Tom. I keep forgetting Tom because the actor's name is Tom, but then the other character's name is Tom. It's very confusing.
It is confusing.
And he is dead set on going to Freddie to sell these drugs. And she's like, do not do that. I mean, they know that's their plan, is they're waiting for you to go and take it there. Mm-hmm. And is he this dumb that he's doing this and stepping into it? Or is this part of a bigger setup, which I'm curious to, maybe we can say that for the end. But
I was commenting last week about how this show defies the usual thing we see of like, oh, this person is not playing by society's rules, but he's sharp as a tack.
Right.
Robbie's judgment is not great. So I took it at face value. Do you think there's something more?
Well, I mean, we can save it for speculation, but I can bring it up here initially because I'll expand on it later. But I do wonder if when he gets to the end of the episode, whether he actually thinks Freddie's going to meet up there after he's been explicitly told by Erin, or whether Freddie's not in on it, or whether he lets Freddie in on this. He simply is saying like, he's not, he's this vagrant bird and he is not planning to go back home, but he is planning to get his final revenge on Jason. So is he a step ahead of Jason and company?
I mean, I don't feel like it would be in keeping with the character we've seen.
He's pretty desperate. He was usually acting in a desperate way.
Yeah. So, I mean, in a way, like that would be a fun plot development.
Yeah.
But I would feel like it's a little inconsistent with what's been established.
Yeah. And regardless if that was his intention, I do think that by the time we get to the end, that it's just going to be a bunch of people shooting at each other in the next episode when it kicks off. Okay, now this is, as much as I like that scene between Erin and Robbie, the next scene with Perry arriving, none of this makes any sense to me, by the way. And I thought this was the most trying to progress the plot in such that doesn't quite make sense to me. So Perry arrives, he sees Robbie leave, and he does not follow Robbie. Instead, he stays to confront Erin. Now, he has a tracker on Erin's car and knows exactly where she's probably going to go, probably right back to Jason's house after this. But he doesn't confront her anywhere else. He confronts her here in this public place so he could drag her into his car or whatever. None of this made any sense to me.
It's interesting. I guess I wasn't thinking about the practicalities of it because I was too busy thinking about how it reminded me of The Sopranos and
Mm.
Adriana.
Yeah. Yes, I know. Poor Adriana.
Like it really just had that feeling to me. And I was so disturbed by what happened to Adriana. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm really in the weeds here with like a 25-year-old reference. But Adriana's ending was so bleak that I actually had a nightmare about it, which is not typical for me at all. But I was that disturbed by it. And I think at that point that I got that vibe, I just started bracing myself for something
For the
really.
worst. Yeah.
Yes. And so I was distracted to like the logistics of all of it.
Yeah. For me, this was all kind of plot contrivance, and they could have come up with something better. There is that despondent moment, which kind of works, where she's screaming and the kids on the mountaintop can't actually hear her. And of course, he's freaking out. Perry's freaking out that they'll see him. So he's trying to just keep her quiet. And then he drowns her. And then he's shocked by the fact he's like haunted by it afterwards. He's looking at the scratches she left behind. And it really seems to have disturbed him. But
Yeah.
once again, I just don't know. Like when he says now, he actually says this to her at one point. He says that and I guess we had that question last week when he made the
Yeah.
offer to help her. Was he being sincere? Apparently he was. And he even says to her that I made you a respectful offer, a clean way out, but now we have to do it different. I mean, when he says now we have to do this differently, it seems like it's going to be like really bad, right? Like he's going to,
Agree.
and by the way, if he takes her back to Jason's and has that confrontation in front of Jason, I mean, whether he wants her dead or not, Jason might just kill her. But
Agree.
how do they let her live after this, right? So
Agree.
all of that is, I don't know how he thought this was going to play out better. But he might be worried that, Jason is an emotional person, that Jason might freak out when he discovers this. And I assume that is part of this setup here, right? Like the only reason we have this particular situation is because it's going to lead to some kind of confrontation between Perry and Jason eventually.
Yeah, I also think, as far as your point about the logistics of this, which are all valid, there's definitely something going on here, which I have not fully thought through yet with the water imagery
Oh, sure.
and
Right.
or beyond imagery, literal water.
Right.
So I think also having it happen this way has something to do with this running theme about the water and everybody's magnetic attraction to the water.
Oh, yeah. There's like this baptism, multiple scenes of
Yeah,
baptism. There's this idea of rebirth in the water. But of course, then he drowns her in the water too. So it's this
right.
double-edged sword there.
For a second, I thought he might not know how to swim, and this would be it for her. She would find a way, but
Yeah, she would escape.
yeah,
She seemed like she could have gotten away there at one point, but
yeah,
if those kids just weren't playing their radio so loud, they could have
right, yes,
they could just snapped a picture, and that would have been over for him. He would have run, definitely would not kill her in front
right.
of them. So Robbie does go and meet with Freddie. This is an interesting. Again, I'm a little confused by this. I assume he did not bring the drugs, but then it seems in the conversation that they're like, we should kill him and take the drugs.
Right.
So did he bring the drugs? Because if he brought the drugs, you don't need to have a secondary meeting. This is why I started thinking that this might be a setup, by the way. If they're
Mm.
saying, let's kill him and take his drugs, that would presume he did bring the drugs. So maybe he gave them the drugs as a way to set up, because he's now aware, this is my read on it, that he knows that this is not going to play out the way he wants. So he's never going to get the money and be in Canada and it's all going to work out. Like, I don't think he sees that as a reality anymore. So he could give the drugs to Freddie and basically make the deal. You're absolutely correct, by the way, that he has been in Fantasyland this whole entire time thinking this is all going to work out great. And that's more in his character than him actually thinking, look, there's no way out of this. I'm going to have a setup here. And
Well, you're making an interesting point because, in the car scene, to jump ahead a bit,
yeah,
Tom says, "What's in the bag?" And he says, "Basketballs."
yes,
Right. So I don't know. Maybe it really is basketballs.
maybe it is basketballs. He's just going to have, they're just going to have a tournament to decide who gets walks out of there victorious.
I don't know. I assumed, what happened with Cliff was right. Like he stayed back with the drugs and gave Cliff just a little bit. So I guess I
Right.
was thinking it was something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it could go either way at this point, but I would assume if that's the case, then they were wrong. If this is not the setup that I suspect might actually be happening, or some aspect of it, then when he said that he has the drugs, let's kill him and take the drugs, he did not have the drugs. Then it was, and that's we're just supposed to read it that way, and they're complying with their expectation of telling Jason that he had arrived. So then Sona, big reveal, shock. Not really a shock. The mole is Grassanova. He's a
That's
ratanova.
right.
Is it a rat or a mole? I mean, one of those rodents.
I think it could be both.
Exactly. I mean, a rat is someone who you rat somebody out, so you tell on them. So I guess he hasn't told on anybody, but he's working. I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah, you dirty rat. You dirty rat. I'll just say
Well, yeah, but he's telling the Dark Hearts what law enforcement is doing. I think it works.
All right. I don't know if the show is going to clarify this. Maybe they will. But what do you think his motivation is?
Oh, I assumed he was getting paid. You don't think?
I mean, I guess, but then how did that start? I mean, once again, I don't know how.
You want the origin story?
I would like to know a little bit, just like just one line of dialogue that explains it. Just then, like, he's just a dirty cop. I'm like, really? That's it? Like, you know? So, and the reason I say that is because if he was just this character we had no insight into at all, fine, right? It's just like someone has to be the rat, right? But you know, we've spent time with him. He has some moral code. He's interested in Tom's, journey as a person of faith. He wouldn't sleep with Lizzie in her marital bed. So there's some morality there, and they've fleshed that out. And now he's like doing a really immoral thing and putting a lot of people's lives in danger. It's interesting here again, like there's all these parallel investigations going on that are all leading to the Prendergasts. I find it very funny that at this moment under the bridge, him and Jason meet, and they're both getting information that they're like heading to Maeve's house. And it's like two different directions. But I think that's very important because, you know, we have the whole idea of all roads in the title a few weeks back.
That's right.
And it really was like, it's not like, oh man, if Robbie had just done this one thing differently, it's like at some point, this was all going to circle back to them. It didn't really matter what end of this you picked up, you're going to end up in the same place.
True.
And of course, he's starting to freak out. Again, I don't know his motivations here. I assume he's a pretty moral person. I don't think he wants to see this team get hurt for sure. So he is desperately trying to make sure he's like, do not go there.
Yeah.
My boss is heading in the same direction. You guys are going to run into each other. And I think part of that is like, he's making it sound like, I don't want you to get caught, but I'm pretty sure he just doesn't want anyone to get caught in this crossfire. Of course, it might be too late for that though.
Might be.
And of course, this theme, again, this recurring theme of abused women. There's a scene where Lizzie and Aaliyah are bonding over smelling something. I forget what she's smelling, but apparently she's lost her sense of smell from being hit.
It was rotten milk.
Rotten milk, right.
Blah.
She's lost her sense of smell from the abuse she suffered earlier. And and there was a question I had, whether this was a performance, was she trying to get on the good side of this, or a combination of both? But it turns out this is a true story, that she doesn't just have experience of somebody in her life being abused, and she's using that to, when she was interviewing Ray's girlfriend, to try to get on her side, or wife, I guess she is. She does have this experience. And a little bit more detail there. It's interesting that she's using her law enforcement position to keep tabs on her former abuser as well. What'd you make of Lizzie's face here? She has this like kind of expression when she's hearing the story, and there's a little smile on her face. Was she just more admiring of her? Do you think the way I read it was that she just likes when people, I mean, I guess she's just been like a laughing stock for so long, when people actually relate to her. And this has happened multiple times. Like when Grasso didn't hook up with her last week, she had this like kind of smile on her face, which, by the way, this kind of sweet way she's being presented here really concerns me, because we'll leave it for speculation as to who's going to live and who's going to die at the end of next week. And I do have my concerns about just how they've been using Lizzie on the show. I'm like, is she going to be the sacrificial lamb?
I think you're paying a lot more attention to her than I am.
I mean, they are spending a lot of time tying her into all these different characters.
Yeah, maybe so.
And all these quirky character dynamics. I don't think it's just there to have laugh lines. I think we're trying
It's so that we're going to be upset when she dies.
Exactly. They want to, it's almost like they went back through the script afterwards and they're like, let's put these character moments in so that when she dies, it hurts a lot. And of course, this is such a great sequence. And it's a big chunk of this very long episode, almost half an hour of the episode between multiple moments. But of course, it is Tom arriving at Robbie's house, or Maeve's house, actually. And all of this. I mean, if Robbie had just left a few minutes earlier, things wouldn't have worked out this way. But I guess in a way, it's maybe positive that it did. But all of this was, Tom with his whole bumbling Columbo thing, like, oh, just one more thing, just one more thing. Oh, I have to use the bathroom. It's just like every possible delay tactic, waiting for Grasso to show up. And Grasso's already
his glasses. He's writing slow. Yeah,
exactly. And then, of course, just as he is, and then same thing there, you're thinking like, oh, if he had just waited outside or done something different, but Robbie's onto him pretty much right away.
Well, I also thought there was a great scene where, I think this is where it happens, where we see Robbie just partially, and it's shot from the back, talking to Tom. And you see he can't stop his hand, like his fingers keep playing with each other while he's talking to Tom. He's like making a pattern with his thumb on each finger because it's like a nervous habit.
Yeah, he's very nervous here.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know what the right thing to do is. He's trying to comply. He doesn't want to kick this guy out. Might make him look even more suspicious. Then again, he might also be like, oh, maybe something's about to happen. Maybe like the cops are right around the corner and he wants to feel out like what's going to happen. Of course, if he believes that, he could just go sprinting into the woods, but that's probably not going to work out well either. So, yeah. So he does play it pretty well because he does get to have a little more freedom before this whole thing comes apart on him. He pulls the gun on him, and this is just as Robbie gets the sketch from the sketch artist, which of course just confirms what he already knew.
Tom gets the sketch, yeah.
Tom does, yeah.
Not a bad sketch.
Yeah, right. And then this leads to the conversation in the car, which of course is kind of like the thematic.
Hey, wait, before you get there, on the subject of the sketch, I was shocked that the witness giving that information wasn't in worse shape. Like Robbie really beat him up last week.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He just had like a bruise on his nose.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the funniest thing about like fights in movies, period. I forgot who was talking about this recently. Just the fact that when you see like if someone actually hits somebody, like, an actual shot to the face, like a shot to your jaw, one punch is like you are out. Like you are not going to just take a pounding. Right. Plus, of course, you'll probably break your hand on the person's face. Like even like professional boxers break their hands fighting. So this is all ridiculous. So you could just like pin somebody to the ground and punch them over and over again and like not murder the person.
Right.
Which of course is not, is not realistic at all. But
and then this guy's just walking around with like a Band-Aid on his nose.
Exactly. He's like, oh, I think I broke my nose. I mean, he may not have even broken his nose. They just have any padding or anything. And there's just like, he broke the skin. I mean, like maybe he's just a very soft puncher. He has soft paws.
Okay. So sorry, I digress. Go back to the car, which is this whole thing is amazing for me.
Yeah. It's a terrific scene. And really like the fulcrum of the show, or what we've been waiting for this whole entire time. People have mentioned that this was like Heat set in Pennsylvania, and I really didn't feel that much. But I kind of see that maybe Heat was an inspiration here, especially because like that movie, it's like these two people are circling each other for the whole movie, and then they only meet like pretty late in the going. So I think that's the moment we're seeing here, obviously. And this is the big payoff, and it's really good. Like, you finally see these two characters who obviously we've been seeing that they are like two sides of the same coin. Someone who's a good person doing bad things, and then somebody who is trying to be a very moral person, even working in law enforcement, but then compromised as well when he thinks about just these personal, it's all interior, right? It's like the feelings he feels guilt for not supporting his adoptive son, for regretting some of the decisions he made. But it's like these are, obviously one's in an extreme where he's robbing people and people have actually ended up shot dead for his activities. But it is interesting to see these two people feeling each other out and seeing some moral overlap between the two of them. Robbie starts off very tough in the car. Of course, he's playing this role But over time, he starts to warm to him. He starts talking to him. He finds out that he was a priest. And they have this conversation where he mentions that his wife had been someone who did not have faith, and they argued all the time. And that was, in a way, what attracted him to her. But she never really had faith. She thought this was the only life we have. And Robbie, of course, with those wet eyes, this whole time listening to this conversation, he says, I'm on Susan's team here.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I never felt God in my life, which of course we know that Tom did, at least at one point in his life. What do you think about Robbie's philosophy here that basically people seek faith because if this is really all we have, this life, it's just too depressing for them to accept, but he doesn't believe it.
I have had a similar thought myself. Not kind of a different perspective on the same idea, which is that if this is all there is, that is terrifying.
Right.
So we have to, or some people choose to believe that there's something more in order to keep yourself from every single day being terrified by the fact that if this day is your last, there's nothing more that comes after it.
Right.
I mean, for me, that is a terrifying concept. The idea that I could cease to exist is very scary to me. I luckily am fortunate that I don't feel like my life is so depressing that if this is all there is, that would be devastating. It's not that, but it's that I like existing.
As I think we all do, mostly, I should say, not everybody, but.
So I get it. It's a different concept, but it's the same kind of idea that we need something to grasp onto to make it bearable.
Yes, I think that's the whole purpose of finding something in life. I think that we all seek, and it could be religion, or it can be some calling, or it could be just embracing the moment, but some different philosophy to get us through that. I mean, there's that whole idea that art itself, that culture itself, is created by the existential fear that we will no longer exist someday, right? So whether you build a building or make a movie or write a book or whatever it is, like leaving a mark because of that fear that like, I need to prove that I was here at some point. And of course, that's our family too. That's our legacy as well. And they do talk about their family. And Robbie gets emotional again, talking about his kids. And this is when Tom brings up this whole idea, not an elegant segue here, by the way, where he talks about he saw a summer tanager, I think is the name of this bird.
Yeah, tanager, I think. Yeah.
And that it was a vagrant. And that just means that it was not in the right place. And usually these birds don't make it. They don't find their way homes. They find their ways home. And Robbie makes fun of him saying, great, I got kidnapped by the most depressing agent. What are the different things? First of all, he calls him the best agent in the FBI. And then he says he's field agent something. And he goes, it sounds like you're a real estate agent.
Yes.
And then later on, when he lets him go, he says, and it's actually pretty touching. He says to him that I actually need you to do something for me, which is Maeve had nothing to do with this. Yeah. And I need you to make sure she's okay. And you just need to walk through the woods and you'll find, he goes, it's beautiful. You'll see. And it really is beautiful. Another way that he connects with Tom here, Tom actually calls his kids and says, I'm at this lake and it's there's a lot of birds. He loves his birds. He's just like, oh, there's a lot of birds around. He's always happy when there's a lot of birds around. But of course, going back to that initial bringing up the bird, he's saying that he's a vagrant. And he goes, what I'm telling you is that there's still a way home for you. Although
I don't know about that, man.
I don't know either. I mean, that's what he's got to say, but I don't think so. Of course, the button on all this is he mentions as he's letting him go about his wife. And he's like, well, actually, my wife is dead. And that's just another thing, right? Because his wife's been dead for about a year. His brother's been dead for about a year. Just another thing that unites them. So before Tom actually calls his kids, and I have a question about that, but before that comes, we do have this scene where Emily's been called out of school. Yes. She's home with Sarah, and they're worried about the dad, obviously. When was he last seen? What was he wearing? And they're like, I don't know. I didn't see him when he left the house. But after the police leave, they talk to each other. And first of all, Sarah confides in her that the reason she's not living with her husband right now is because she found out he was cheating. And this description of this was very interesting, that this woman he's cheating with it's not even like she's different than her. It's like she's like her. So it's like he just went and picked somebody that was like a younger version of her, or maybe a more emotionally available version of her.
Yeah, I don't think it's entirely unusual for something like that to happen.
Yeah. But of course, after she confides this with her, she also mentions that she had heard her the night before talking about how she can only feel gratitude. And she's like, I don't want you to feel that way anymore. And I don't think mom would want that either. So I think that was really sweet because you get to see her call her mom after kind of shrugging her off as being a real sibling. And just the fact that she's kind of talking to her as if this is a shared family. And I know you've had mixed feelings about Sarah. What did you think about this interaction?
I thought this was a great scene. First of all, I think it was very needed because just about at this point in the episode, I started thinking, this is a very substantial story in itself relating to Robbie. Did we need all this family drama for Tom? Like, just from a story construction perspective, I was starting to wonder about it when we had gone so long without getting back to that plot. So I was happy they circled back to it just for construction reasons. But also, I thought this was a great shared moment between them where Sarah is letting her guard down and being more open and treating Emily like a real sister. And I thought it was really, really sweet.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point there that I haven't considered. I've actually liked seeing Tom at home with his family, and I think some people are critical of this, but I have enjoyed this part of the show and the character development there. But I think you're right that when you think about the balance of Robbie's home life and Tom's home life, it seems like there's all this other stuff going on in Tom's life. And I'm not sure all of it adds to what's going on.
They really went for it with the adopted son killing the mom.
I know, exactly.
Like you can have family drama without going that dark.
Right. So it may be a little distracting. It hasn't been distracting to me, but maybe you put your finger on how it does feel imbalanced. And now we have to have this scene to progress that. But maybe it does pay off in the end because, as we mentioned, this is probably going to wrap up relatively soon.
Right. Yes.
And I assume that part of the extension of the season is in reconciling these families as well.
Yeah, that's fair. And I have to say, it was really moving for me in the woods when Tom thinks he's going to die.
Sure.
That he asks to call his son.
Absolutely.
Or to get a message to his son, whatever it was.
Right. Yep.
It was really moving for me that like in what he thinks are his final moments, and you really have to prioritize what you might be able to accomplish. That's where his mind went.
Yeah, especially I think that's a really good point. You brought that up because first he says, I have things I have to tell my kids. I need to talk to my kids. And he says that repeatedly. And then in the end, when he thinks like this might be only one more chance, he says, I need to say something to my son because in that moment, he realizes that if he could only talk to one of the kids, the daughters probably know that he's been there for them and loved them. And he would want to talk to them, obviously, but he does not think he's done right by his son.
Yeah.
But of course, he does not die here. Robbie's not the cold-blooded monster that you would...
He keeps inadvertently getting people killed, but he's not doing it purposefully.
It's not on purpose. These are all accidental deaths. And then we're getting close to the end of the episode. A lot of things are coming together all at once. Maeve just shows up at the police station with Sam. There's no subterfuge here. She's just like,
she just went for it.
I
cannot live with this anymore.
I'm putting myself in danger. I'm putting the kids in danger. I'm putting this kid in danger. I just got to get this kid out of my house. just fess up and get this thing over with. I thought that would have more of a payoff. Somehow her being in the police station would do something, but she's just like in that room when they walk out as they, discover that.
I mean, everyone figured out everything at that point anyway. So really no harm done. Great timing on Maeve's part.
True. So they've been tracking his tags on Robbie's car. He drives through one of the toll plazas. Then he realizes, that's probably, I don't want to stay on this road too long. So now he goes back roads. This is, of course, that leads the whole sequence where he lets Tom go. And in parallel, like you mentioned, Jason has shown up at Perry's house. Perry's, really freaked out about having killed Aaron, looking at the scratches on his neck. Again, I feel like that's going to pay off in some way. I still just think this is a little weird. I mean, obviously, Perry might not kill people face to face on a regular basis. So maybe this isn't something that's as common, or maybe it's just the fact that he had some affinity for this girl or doesn't kill women or something, but it is freaking him out. And, or maybe he's just afraid that Jason's going to find out and kill him or something. But
fair.
I don't know how this was going to go well for Aaron anyway. Oh, of course, they go radio silent as well. They're like, they don't want their phones to be tracked to the location, considering they're about to do some dirty work. And Grasso is texting them. He has an agent with him. We're heading there. Don't go. They're not getting any of these text messages. Oh, by the way, a really good piece of dialogue, which we've actually seen in the trailer for the season, but we have when Robbie does let Tom go, he said, "You can still go home."
Yes.
And Robbie goes, "What did you call that bird? The vagrant?"
Yeah.
He goes, "Even if I wanted to go home, I don't know the way no more."
Yeah.
And then I think that's why I think that there's more going on here in the end, although he might just be making that revelation at this moment, but he's not been dealing with this in a realistic manner. And I think now he knows that, like, you know, he's gotten his friend killed, multiple friends killed. His kids are in danger, and he's the problem to some extent, right?
Mm.
So, I mean, he can go out in a blaze of glory and try to kill Jason. I assume that's going to be the case. But I think he knows that the whole fantasy of selling the drugs and shipping off to Canada is not going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I don't think he, even by the other reading where maybe he doesn't have a bigger plan, I don't think he would be surprised that it's Jason that shows up and not Freddie.
Right, right.
So I think he's prepared for that outcome, even if there isn't some brilliant plan in place.
Even if he's still hopeful, he probably is planning that it's possible that something bad's going to happen. Yeah. That he's not just expecting that Freddie's going to show up and everything's going to go smoothly. Freddie could show up. I mean, hey, Freddie could show up and just kill him and take the drugs, right? If that's one scenario, right? So things are not necessarily going to go smoothly at all on this particular day for him.
Right.
Interesting that Tom walks out to the beautiful lake. Of course, he's impressed that, there's so many birds here. The first thing he does is call his kids, which is very sweet. Mm-hmm. But I got to tell you, I would assume in that situation, I got to check in with the field office because who knows what's going on right now? Like, who knows what's going on at this moment?
Minutes could matter. Yeah,
exactly. Absolutely. I mean, meanwhile, she's just, stress eating a bunch of French fries, but
which was a very funny scene. Yeah.
Yes. But that he didn't know that.
Well, I also thought it was interesting that they decided to stop for a snack.
Right.
When they were like, "Oh, we lost him. They must have left the highway. Damn it. Okay, let's all get some burgers." Like, I don't.
Well, maybe they were waiting to get some feedback from, that could give them a little more information, because just pulling off the road, assuming you're between two exits and just driving around until you find his car. I mean, I don't think that's going to work. You're not really going to have much success that way. Oh, by the way, interesting piece of police work that they draw your attention to earlier. He's listening to the radio, and then when they start talking, he turns down the radio, but he doesn't turn it off because when he calls up, he goes, "You could track his satellite radio." Yes. So he was assuming to leave it on so that it would be pinging the satellite, and that he could, if he just left it on and forgot it was on, that of course there would be a live connection to the car.
Yes, very smart.
And of course,
and a little bit of an ad for Sirius as well.
Yes. Does anyone? I mean, you know what? The funny thing about it is, when I'm driving in my car, I never listen to Sirius. I've never paid for it, but of course, it's in all our cars. And when I'm driving up to Vermont, you see the sign, the messaging keep popping up like that. You've lost connection to Sirius Satellite. You've regained connection to Sirius Satellite. So I'm like, I've never paid for Sirius Radio, but I guess they could track my radio signal
regardless,
constantly connecting to it, right?
Yeah.
And then we get to the end. Robbie has come to the family cabin. Jason and Perry and the rest of the thugs are on their way for this drug deal, supposedly. Robbie is not in the cabin. I assume he's smart enough to, at least, no matter what he thinks is going to happen, that he's not going to just sit there and wait for them to arrive. He's going to at least wait to see who arrives. And while he's giving himself another little self-baptism by the edge of the lake, Tom comes up and tells him, "We got you. Put the gun down." But of course, he points it right at him. But is he pointed at him, or does he want to get shot? Or, this is my theory, Sona, or is Jason and those guys coming up behind them and he's pointing his guns at those guys?
Interesting. Great theory.
Because they hear Tom yell out Robbie's name. And of course, that brings them coming.
Right. Good point. So smart.
And that's it. Guns drawn. Hopefully, Tom does not pull that trigger. And that's it. They cut the black on like the peak of suspense. Like I was on the edge of my seat here, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I suspected we might get some amount of cliffhanger here, but I didn't expect like literally guns drawn, cut the black. I'm like, wow, there's a cliffhanger for you. So you heard my speculation. Anything else? What do you expect you will see in the next couple episodes?
Well, I think you make a good point about how we probably will resolve this very tense part of the story next episode. And then maybe return back to Tom's family as a focus in the final episode.
And Maeve whatever, too, right? Maeve, the fallout with the kids.
Right, exactly. Right? Whatever's up with Maeve and Robbie's kids. You know, and maybe if Robbie survives this, see where he is. I don't know. So as far as the structure, I think that makes sense. As far as the substance, I'm not really sure what I expect to happen here.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about what's been set up. And like you mentioned, I think we're going to see some fallout. I mean, I actually worry that maybe Robbie or maybe even Tom get injured or killed. And then you're back with the family because now you have this adoptive family regrouping. I mean, we may have a situation where we have Maeve and the kids and Sam, who's now an orphan, and and Tom's family. They all live in like one extended family now.
No, I feel like we will see some moment between Tom and Ethan. So for that reason, I don't think Tom will die.
Yeah, I would assume that's a good point. We have to circle back to the whole thing with Ethan. And it doesn't really make sense if we don't get a scene with Tom talking to Ethan at some point and having it all out. So that's a really good point, right? We've only seen Ethan that one time in the
Yeah, I feel prison. Like it's too unfinished otherwise.
Yeah, that's not going to, yes, it doesn't make any sense to even have that character in there if there's never
I do think he could end up incapacitated somehow and Sarah decides to move back into the house. Yeah. I think Sarah has at least one child. I think that was referenced.
The baby, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how that would work with the split in the marriage, but assuming that there are no custody issues, I could see them all being reconvening in the house somehow. Probably without Ethan.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, I think Ethan is going to be in jail for at least some period of time. And maybe Sarah, has some. Well, I mean, that's the other possibility, right? Sarah, God forbid something happens to Tom, that Sarah can have part of her reconciliation be to forgive Ethan as well.
Mm.
So there might be some degree of that. Yeah, I'm not sure. My bigger concern is like who's going to die here. I do think there's going to be some. I mean, it could be one of the main protagonists. I mean, we've seen that before with Brad Inglesby in some of the other things he's written. So he's not afraid to kill off a main player. But I feel more like it's going to be one of these sacrificial lamb characters. I mean, it could be Grasso who gets killed because, if the guns are all firing in the woods and Grasso's trying to protect Jason and Jason sees Grasso there, he might feel like, oh, you betrayed me because he doesn't know what's actually happened. So Grasso could just be like, step out and, make himself clear and be like, no, we got to end this. And then he gets caught in the crossfire as well, revealing that he's the rat. So yeah, it could be Grasso, could be Lizzie. I feel like Lizzie's the one most likely to go, I think. Oh, let's talk about the title for a minute. Vagrants, right? So it's the first thing we were supposed to talk about. Skip it. But we can talk about it now since we've come back to it. So yeah, interesting that it's Vagrants, like you mentioned. So I was thinking about that very thing right before our conversation started. So Vagrants, of course, we have Robbie, who's a vagrant. But these birds that have flown too far away and may not be able to find their way back. Maeve has found her way back to her moral center. Tom is still finding his way back, right? Trying to forgive his son. Sarah may be forgiving Ethan here, or at least trying to as well. And Robbie, of course, right? I think Robbie is definitely trying to, he may not be able to find his way back, but he's trying to find a resolution here of some kind. What do you think about the title? Any other speculation?
Well, we've only seen him once, but in a way, Ethan.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, he is a vagrant, right? He's like on the outside of the family.
Hmm.
So that's an interesting way to consider that because these other people are trying to find their way back, but he can only find his way back if they let him back, right? He's like, they're keeping him
Yeah.
out. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. I think we've touched on. Oh, I mean, well, Grasso too, right? So Grasso's another character who maybe lost his way along the way in getting involved in the situation, and
Yeah.
maybe he needs to correct this himself. Anyway, I'm really curious because I don't know. I don't know how things resolve next week. There's so many different places it can go at this point, so I am pretty excited to see how it turns out.
Yeah, I thought this was a fantastic episode. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they continue to build on it.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the episode that I mean the show's. I assume the show's been doing pretty well from little I know, but I think this is going to be the episode that kind of gets everybody who's on the fence to jump in and watch the show.
Hmm.
And it's a really great episode. I mean, terrific. I mean, of course, I'm not hugely in general not a fan of shows that end on cliffhangers, but everything else is so good in building this relationship between not a relationship, but I guess a an understanding between Tom and Robbie, and the way all the characters developed here. I thought it was really terrific and thrilling. Multiple really exciting sequences.
Yes, like on the edge of my seat for certain moments and very moved by certain
Yep.
moments. Yeah,
Yeah. Really terrific. A terrific episode. All right, Sona. That's it. We got two more episodes. And
that's
then, all
it.
right, Sona, I will talk to you soon.
Talk to you later.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.